millions of women globally alive today who have gone through menopause, who have incredibly fit, active, agile bodies. I'm 10 years post-menopause and I feel younger than I did at 28.
Welcome to Life by Design, where we explore what it means to grow intentionally in a world that wants you to stay on your default settings. Conversations covering every area of your life. And I'm your host, Kate Vandenboss. In today's episode, I'm going deeper with Sam Beau Patrick, a hormone health specialist, naturopath, and nutritionist who was also a nurse and at one time a pharmaceutical professional. So she brings an interesting and rare perspective from both sides of the women's health conversation. We are talking about hormones, but really we're talking about what happens when your body starts doing things that make you feel like you're just not you anymore. The irritability, the exhaustion, the weight gain, the increasing awareness that things that used to work for you just don't work in the same way anymore. Sam invites us to see our world through our hormone eyes and getting curious about our stress levels and burnout status, which then changes the question from what is wrong with me to what is my body trying to tell me. We go deep on this one for sure, so let's dive in. Sam Beau Patrick, welcome to today's episode of Going Deeper. How are you?
So wonderful, and it's so good that we're getting the opportunity to do this. It's
Nice.
something we've been talking about for years, so it's great.
Absolutely. So you'll notice that Sam's accent is a little bit different than what you're used to hearing. She is actually down on the Gold Coast of Australia right now. And I'm already feeling it. I'm probably going to slip into a little bit of mimicry, which I tend to do when I'm talking to an Antipodean. You're actually Tasmanian, right? If I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I grew up on that little island south of Australia, and they call it the mainland, like the big part of Australia, the mainland. And little Tassie down the bottom. It's one of the
Nice.
best places with the best seafood, and yeah,
Right. Yeah. So
becoming
Sam's my
becoming a
personal
destination.
Tasmanian devil in the house right now. So today we are going to be talking about one of Sam's specialities, which is hormones and hormone
Mm.
health, healthy balanced hormones. And I actually did a quick, just casual reach out to some of my clients and some friends. And, I have my own personal questions too, being now of that age that I didn't think I would be having this conversation. And, I was bombarded with questions and immediately back. So there is a lot of chatter out there right now, a lot of confusion around a lot of things because there's just so much information out there. But we have a lot of questions to get through today. So I'm really glad that you're able to join us.
Oh, it's let's dive in. Let's
Let's
start and
dive
let's
in.
see if we can
All
help
right.
some
So
people understand this
let's
topic.
start with the end in mind. All right. And
Right.
what would be your ideal takeaway for somebody listening today to today's episode?
That no matter what they've tried before, if they haven't got the result they've wanted, start considering that there could be a blockage there or a friction point with hormones. Hormones are they affect everyone. Both sexes make them. We make them to produce happiness. When we're happy, we produce more. If we're burnt out, we suppress some. And once you start seeing the world through hormone eyes, it's like looking at the weather. You unconsciously tap into it and go, well, I'm going to make some decisions based on the weather today, or I'm going to make some decisions based on my hormones today that'll keep me safe and happy and get the most out of me. So that's what I really want people to walk or listen to today and go, oh my gosh, I've got a new insight. And maybe today I'll do something different with my body or my
Hmm.
mind.
I like that. So let's go back a little bit. How did you start specializing in this? What drew you into the healthy hormone conversation?
Yeah, so I trained as a nurse back at the Royal Hobart Hospital, like in 1987, and had this incredible career as a nurse. Absolutely adored it. Specialised in emergency nursing, primary care, finished up in intensive care, and worked hard. Loved being at that interface with people
Mhm.
when you see them at their most vulnerable. But it's very much a top-heavy pharmaceutical surgical solution to illness. There was very little promotion of health, very little there was psychological care, but not what people need when they're in those vulnerable states. So I've always wanted to go that next level. I slid into pharmaceuticals for 9 years, which people find a bit of an anomaly given what I do now. But that training ground in pharma, I was traveling to the States a lot, going to big meetings in Europe and understanding the industry and really once again thinking that what I was doing was helping doctors with solutions for people who had illness, and this was one option. Moved into natural medicine in about 1999 and really love the power of food. And I grew up with Italian grandparents, and everything was, if I love you, I will grow something. I will grow it with love. I will pull it
Mhm.
out of the garden. I'll prepare it, and I'm going to smother you with love through the food connection. So, trained as a nutritionist, ultimately became a naturopath and herbalist. And it was about 4 or 5 years in to having my own business. I had two children, and I was back, I was in some sporting team and thought I was going to save the world and be the glue between medical and pharma and natural medicine and create this incredible business in Australia, start there and go global. And I think I burnt out. And I remember I had this dinner party, and at the dinner party, I'm so much wiser now, but this was, a few days out from Christmas and had all these people around. I was shattered. I was bone exhausted. I thought, oh no, I'll whip up this, impressive dinner party. And I was there, and it gets very hot around Christmas time here. So it's the opposite to the US. So instead of snow, we have bushfires. So it's so hot.
The
And I had
Barbies,
a,
that's why they all come saying, throwing
that's
a
right.
shrimp on the Barbie.
That's it. We have a Christmas barbecue. Anyway, I'm in this gully kitchen, which was tiny, and there was steam, and the oven was bellowing, and I was so hot. And everyone's by the pool drinking moe, and I'm like, anyway, one of my second baby, who was 10 months old, kind of scooted out on all fours, and she'd filled a nappy. What can I say? And it came up over this turkey. I'd never done turkey. And I yelled out to my ex saying, "Can you come in and change her nappy?" In front of all of these people. And for everything that I was doing for all my beautiful friends, he turned around and said no. And at that point, and I'll just draw breath because I know lots of women relate to this.
Mhm.
At that point, I had my hand basting this turkey, and there were steak knives in front of me, like beautiful sharp knives. And I had my hand in there. And when he said no, it was a changing moment in my life where I looked at those knives, I looked at him. I'm a gun water polo player from the outside shot. And I looked at those knives, I thought, I didn't even have the language for what was going on, but I imploded in a way that was like rage. And he's just lucky my hand was in the turkey because I would have got a knife and I would have got him. And that scared me a lot. So I finished off the dinner party, went to bed. Like a lot of marriages, hadn't had, intimacy for a while. You become very functional when you've got children around. And I thought, what am I doing here? A side of me came out tonight that scared the daylights out of me, and I didn't like that side of me. So I went on to a really soulful journey, really trying to discover what that was. And doctors said, "Oh, you're depressed." I'm like, "No, I'm not depressed." I went to chiropractors. "Oh, your spine's out." Well, probably was, but it didn't help me understand this rage. And because I had five staff at that stage and a big clinic, I said to them, "Can we just start asking other women if they're experiencing rage,
Mhm.
or if it's just me? Like, have I got a problem here, or is rage something we have?" And very interesting results came back to us. And this is before we started doing hormone testing on them. But 8 in 10 women said yes, they felt. They didn't use the word rage. They used the word, and they didn't use the word angry. This was a while ago now, maybe back in 2005 or six. So there's a lot of shame
Mhm.
around women having those emotions. But they would say that they felt irritable. They had a short fuse. Oh, I can't stand. They had all these softer ways of describing what was rage.
Mhm.
And it still wasn't satisfactory for me, though. We asked them then if we could do saliva testing on them because blood testing can be an absolute waste of time for hormones. So we did saliva testing, and the results are what I write my books about. What's put me on the page as such around hormones is that when women, so just to finish off that little story, when women are angry, we push up our testosterone because testosterone is a survival hormone for women. It's not a sex hormone, it's a stress hormone in us. And it's get out of my way because I could, move a truck to save my babies, or I could, and it's a very volatile hormone. And the research on it was very thin at the time. In fact, the only research on testosterone levels in women was with women with polycystic ovary syndrome. And they said, we don't know what causes that. Or women who are in jail, female inmates. And both parties, surprise, surprise, have high testosterone. And the medical voice is, we don't know what causes it. And so I suddenly went, because we're treating testosterone like a sex hormone. It's not, it's a stress hormone. And that's when this whole world opened up. And I wrote my first book and was on TV quite a lot because I saw the world differently from a hormone perspective. And then you can actually help people. Once they understand what's driving it, I just have to show women how to lower testosterone with the opposite hormone, which is oxytocin. Happens in seconds.
That's
That's really powerful.
fascinating. Like that
Yeah.
literally is like I'm like processing it. Okay, because even in my brain, and I know this stuff, I don't obviously know it as well as you do, but I had never thought about it not being because we always think about cortisol, right? That's our stress hormone. We also in cortisol, high stress, adrenal fatigue, burnout, all of that kind of stuff. That's what makes you fat. That's where you're carrying it all around. But I've never heard it so succinctly put in that way that that's actually testosterone. That's also part of our stress response to that. So one that was actually one of the questions that came in is like, is everybody as irritable as I am? Right? Is the world
Mm,
as irritating for everybody else? Because irritability is that word. But I have
mm,
to say, from a personal perspective, so I'm I'm still going to say I'm 48. I'm creeping very closely up to 49. And there
mm,
is not a lot of regrets that I have in my life, but there is one that I have now is to be able to go back to the clients that I was working with in clinic as personal trainer, a sports therapist when they were in our osteopathy clinic and actually ask better questions. Because
mm,
from as a 20 something, early 30s, I had no comprehension. All we had was what was being taught in the textbooks. This
mm,
is likely what they're going to be experiencing. And this is I mean, we went from a herbal approach to them, ask about herbs and what are they getting enough sleep? Are they drinking enough water? What food are they eating to get them away from the irritants and the known food sensitivities? But it's nothing like to look at my life now through this lens. All of those things would have frankly just irritated the crap out of me even more because it's not you're not feeling seen and heard. And I think that would be part of because the feedback that I'm getting in the and from the world around me is that I'm the problem in a way, right? It's the way that I'm responding to the world that's the problem. It's not, and yet it feels like the world's the problem. Does that make sense?
100%. And you've really just said something that people listen to this and go, I am being seen, I am being heard. That at the end of the day is all we want. We want that from little children through to women who are postpartum, through to menopausal women, through to aging people. We
Mm-hmm.
just want to say, can someone not make me invisible? Can I be seen? You don't have to solve my life, but just acknowledge I'm alive, I'm breathing, and maybe just listen to me. It's not be seen, be heard, and answer all my life questions. It's just be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. I
Very
love that.
simple.
So,
Mm,
if there was one thing, there's a lot of information out there, as I'm sure you're fully aware, and a lot of
mm,
misconceptions, a lot of myths, a lot of bad information, frankly. But there's also a
mm.
lot of really good information out there. But as you even just mentioned, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. And so, one feeling, looking at it through a hormone lens is a great starting point. I love that as a theory. What is one other place that the question was actually asked, what is one domino that can start to fall that will start to lead to the rest of the dominoes falling into place? So in other words, what is one problem to solve, one area to look at? Where would you start with all of this?
The look, the easiest place to start for people who are busy is to do a test, not guess, because that validates everything. So I'm a huge advocate of hormone testing. It's an out-of-pocket expense. Nowhere in the world is it covered by any government,
Mhm.
and probably not even insurance companies in the States. But it validates. You suddenly you've got in print, I'm not going insane. Here is the reason why. And it gives women a really nice reassurance that there is something physiologically out of place and that they can therefore start to amend that. The longer answer to that, though, and this is possibly, I know this is your journey and a lot of your listeners will
Mhm.
be down this track as well, is working out who's dominating your being at the moment. And I've just come back from Thailand at I went over there, I do a reset as such. And I wasn't getting all the right results out of my body in the last 18 months. I'm very fit. But I've had an illness that I've been fighting. I'm like, how on earth is this happening in my temple? You know, what's not right? So I brought it back to my mind, body, and soul. And you know, that triad that we have inside of us. And what I worked out is that my body was driving all decisions. Sorry, my mind was saying we've got to make more money. My mind was actually starting to dominate
Hmm.
the other two. And my soul didn't like it. So my soul was trying to find itself amongst all that and in a bit of survival mode. And certainly my body was going, I can't keep up with you, mind. You're asking too much of me right now. And so for a deeper dive, if people are interested, you know, maybe do a meditation or two or three, or get out of the fishbowl, go on a retreat with you and break down and have a conversation internally. What's driving my body? Because whatever's the shift is at the moment, whatever's occurring at the moment, these are the results I'm getting. If I don't like these results, if I'm burnt out, maybe it's because my mind is being too dominant and I need to just ask it to calm down and bring the soul back up to the top or whatever that might be for people. It's a bit philosophical, but I think that's the deeper level of understanding ourselves as women
Hmm.
is what are we, you know, it's about high purpose, all that stuff. But who are we listening to inside ourselves?
So one of the things that what I'm hearing and paraphrasing from you is that the expectation is that balanced health and happy life is a normal thing to be able to be achieved right now for these women.
Definitely. And it is. And whether that looks like creating a bubble around yourself that is very conscious and aware of what's happening in the wider planet, because there are a lot of things that are going on that feel obscure, that feel juxtaposed with happiness. But are they? And is this the first rodeo? Is this the first time humanity's been challenged by scourge and evil, by
Mm-hmm.
massive change? And it's not. It feels a lot at the moment, but it did 5 years ago when you asked people. And it did 10 years before that when you asked people. It did in the 1980s when you asked people, and the internet was coming in. And, you know, this, it's just that change for our life, and I guess, you know, we're in our 40s and 50s, feels like I've had enough. I just want to go back to when I was a little girl and was swinging in, you know, grandpa's backyard, and you just want simplicity. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, change isn't like that, and nor is humanity. We have to catch up somehow.
I heard something the other day, and I didn't actually look up the stats. I keep meaning to, but there was a report that said, again, paraphrasing it, that our nervous systems are actually designed to deal with, if you like, about 100 people, maybe 200 people, something in
Yeah.
the low hundreds. And the way that it was being described is, you think that's a tribe, right? That's your tribe of people around you, and that's their highs, their birthdays, their celebrations, their anniversaries, their and their lows, their depressions, their relationship struggles, their all of that kind of stuff, or in, you know, like an English village kind of thing. So you'd be standing in the
Mm,
pub, listening to everybody and being directly and emotionally responsive and attached to that person's experience.
mm.
And that's, again, the way that it was being phrased is that's what our nervous system is built to deal with. But we don't have that anymore. And unless we're very, very consciously aware of this as an experience, because you pick up your phone, you pick up you turn on your laptop, you
Facebook.
pick on your Facebook, you even just open your emails, and you are suddenly energetically bombarded by all of this energy and lifestyle. And it's a lot of it's even just false, you know. It's this whole perception of what you think that person's life is, but they're you know, just everything. And it's actually really, I mean, you can just feel it. It's overpowering for our nervous systems that were just physiologically not designed to interact that with that many people.
It's such a, you know, I haven't heard this point talked about, but it's so true. Like, I always talk about the village. Know who your village is, be accountable. You know, years ago, this was taught to me actually by a psychiatrist that I was touring with. The hierarchy is look after yourself first, your partner or spouse next, your children, your friends, your family, greater village. Now there's this global responsibility to, you know, we don't necessarily get guilted. We choose to opt into what's happening in different countries and wars and different things. And the skill set to disengage from that or know where we can influence stuff and can't influence us has become very dilute. And I think one of the greatest changes to humanity is how people can access us, that bit's fine because I've had to go through it myself.
Hmm.
The skill I had to learn was how to not let it affect me and how not to let it affect my village. Because at the end of the day, my village is my responsibility. My children, my spouse, my children, my friends are my responsibility. And sure, I've got a responsibility to the planet and the environment and animals and other things I put my hand up for as an environmentalist, but I have to look after my village first and foremost. And those skills, uh, some are learning and some are not. And one of the biggest issues I help people with at the end of the day, I usually do relationship counseling, career counseling, but it's going to be social connection counseling because they don't know how to pull back and not feel guilty. Oh, but I should be keeping up with what's happening with JFK in the US. Hell yeah, but do you let that consume your thoughts every day, or do you go to the village, get your vegetables from the farmer, ask him about his day, and then cook some nice meals for your family? Like, we still have to be able to pull back, disengage, and not feel bad about it.
It's actually one of I was just going to say that one of the recurring themes that I hear a lot with clients and sessions is this, let's call it survivor guilt. There's this guilt around, but I'm okay. I'm happy.
Mm,
I love my life. I've created a good life. And so it's just putting that in perspective. They're in a session with me because they're there to be in control of the outcome and the positivity of their life and the direction of their life. And then there's this counter guilt of I'm creating the life of my dreams. I'm living on purpose. I'm doing everything. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I'm bringing joy into my life. And I'm also feeling guilty about that because other
mm,
people aren't. And it's like this competing, and they're big. That's front and center priority issues and value issues right there. So it's that exactly what you just said is remembering who and what you are responsible for first and foremost. And your
mm,
because again, if we turn, and we've all done it, right? We've had a social media detox where we go for 30 days or 60 days, and we can talk about the whole dopamine addiction around just social media is a whole nother conversation. But there's this sense of if you don't know about it, it was that whole thing. It's like if a tree falls in the woods, do you hear it if nobody is around? And it's
mm,
the same thing. It's on social media. Yes, there are things happening in the world, but even with you being across everything that you are aware of, there are 400 million times more things that you are not aware of that actually are happening somewhere in the world. And
mm.
so it's putting that back in, for me, it's about putting that back in perspective around what is more important. And again, we're here having a conversation about health and well-being and balancing that. So if that's a priority, then these are really simple things that you can start becoming aware of, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and could you mind if I lean into that a little bit? And I
Of
meant to say
course.
Robert Kennedy Jr., not
Oh,
JFK, of
it's
course.
fine.
Sorry,
There's
I
a whole
just realised.
conspiracy around JFK too, so you might be talking about that.
Um, this really taps into, and yes, we are talking about health and happiness. And when we get health and happiness, yeah, should we feel guilty for it? Like it's silly. We should feel proud of it. And
Mm.
it raises two things for me that I want to talk about. One is in Australia, we call it the burnt sausage syndrome. I don't, and it's not, it's a term that I've used, the burnt sausage syndrome. It might be the burnt burger syndrome in America to make our land a little bit more applicable. We have a lot of sausages down under. So sausages, what can happen as mums, as women, as carers, as nurturers? That's our primary biological bent. We weren't necessarily the ones grabbing spears and running and killing the bison. The blokes were doing that, or the teenage boys were doing that. We were generally breeding, creating a village as such, our baby village, and voice and support for each other, and cooking and different things like that. Now, with the burnt sausage phenomena that happens is we will feed everyone else the best parts of the meal. If we cook a roast, or you maybe turkey on Thanksgiving Day, or I call it the burnt sausage syndrome because we give everyone the great sausage but keep the burnt one for ourselves. And that's just that sacrificial female thing that I think is innate. I don't think we need to feel ashamed of it. I don't think we need to unpack it. It just is a innate, beautiful thing women often do. In order, though, to achieve great joy and great happiness, we do have to give ourselves permission to have the best sausage, to have the best burger, to have the best meal, to not shortchange ourselves when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to rest, when it comes to time with those people we love instead of punishing ourselves in a backward way to make everyone else feel better. Honor it the other way around. And I call it self first, not selfish, self first.
Hmm.
If we put ourselves first, what happens is everyone around us gets the better version of us. They get, the best Kate. They get the love-filled Kate. They get the love-filled Sammy, as opposed to the tired, exhausted, reactive one. Because they don't really want that one. They want the one who is able to give them from a place of love and joy and cup overfilling. So, in order for us to be in that process, we have to start there. And then we've got more to give. We have, there's another person who's happy in the equation, which is us. So that's what I'd say to women as well. And I'm sure you spend a lot of time helping women with this one, because there's this little voice. It's not even a voice. It's just
Hmm.
I better make sure the kids have tires on their car rather than look after my health. It's like,
So that's
no,
an interesting one as well. Like one of the analogies that I'll use, I do like that the burnt sausage one because again, I'm just thinking of for me and for my household too, it would have been pancakes. So my mom always she kept the worst first pancake for herself, but then she didn't eat it until the rest of the pancakes were served to everybody else. So she had the worst pancake and it was by this time cold, right? And so
yeah, yeah.
but so we can all relate to that. And again, when I'm just like you said, that's an innate thing. It's like giving of ourselves again, whether it's to my fur baby, whether it's to my husband. And I'm curious around that though is not trying to change that particularly because that might not satisfy that need of self-care, not being selfish, right? That's something you're going to keep doing is still giving of, and is because I'm just thinking is if you took the best pancake or took the best sausage off the grill and ate it, that wouldn't feel good to you because that's an unnatural way of giving to yourself. And so
Mm.
there's this sense of, right, so what else can I do in my life that gives me that sense of putting myself first? Bath time, putting, the kids to bed at a certain regular time so you get walks on the beach or just finding a different way of giving yourself the best pancake or the best
Yes.
sausage in a way, not necessarily trying to do it literally. I think that's where a lot of mistakes are made because it doesn't feel good then. It feels forced.
Yeah, that's a perfect point to highlight
Mm.
because that's right. It might not be at that point that someone's sick. You go, actually, I've had enough. It's time for my scheduled yoga. Off I go. You might actually lean in during that period, but make sure when the opportunity's there that you don't go and fill that with someone else's needs. You then fill it with yours. So yes, that was well
So
said.
let's go back to because this is a good segue back into talking about like practicalities. Talk to me about HRT. And because
Mm,
where this thought process is coming is a lot of people, if you look at I'm sure you have them down in Australia too, the adverts that are being again put in our faces right now is get your
mm,
energy back, get your libido back, get
yeah.
yourself back, lose the weight again, it's like these really quick fix. I mean there are a lot of pain points too, and those are all things that I'm sure that are we would all love to fix those really quickly because they came on apparently very quickly, so why can't we fix them really quickly? But so HRT and Ozempic, we can have the same conversation, separate conversation. I'm just curious what your because this also ties into there just being so much information, and right now it's who's ever shouting the loudest is getting the attention. And
100%.
again, pharma has all the money behind it. They're going to be pushing the Zemp. They're going to be pushing the GLP ones. They're going to be pushing all of that. And
Mm,
that's what, so there's a lot of things happening. And it's kind of a few questions all piled into one because also layered into this is, again, maybe most of my listeners and myself very much so has an inherent mistrust of pharma. So there is going to this blanket I don't want to hear it
mm,
feeling around because I don't trust anything you're saying or doing. But then does that mean I do nothing? Right. So it's trying to
mm.
again understand and unpack what can be trusted. And I'll hand the mic over to you.
Whoa. Right. So, uh, look, if we can I'll address the farmer thing first, and then we might talk specifically about menopause and
Mhm.
HRT and any hormone replacement. It doesn't have to be menopause, it can be period pains. We give people hormone replacement for period pains. It's called the oral contraceptive pill. Same thing, synthetic, non produced hormones. Pharma, and you're right, and I've seen this, we're 2026 now, probably started in the menopause space round, well, we know we've had the COVID thing where the only solution apparently to the flu that year was waiting for this mRNA thing. Like the vitriol and the misuse of words and the misuse of information by the established powers was abhorrent, and it's all unfolding now, which is great because at the end of the day, we stopped thinking about all the natural skills that we have to transition through this. The body's hardwired for hormone changes. The body's hardwired to um, move weight. It's hardwired to sleep. It's hardwired to buffer off colds. But when you're going to make money off someone, doing my recipe that only I can produce in a lab, then you want to dominate the narrative, and that's definitely what happens. And then you get lobbyists in powerful positions who then influence health ministers, who then influence doctors. So it's not a
And let's
difficult
just
paper
just be
trail to
clear, this
follow.
happens across the world, by the way. This is not a US thing. This
Globally.
is not just UK. This is not just Australia. This is everywhere that there is, whether it's a socially provided healthcare system or whether it's a privately private controlled. So this is not a country specific issue. This is everywhere.
Not at all. And that's, it's the thing though, I would say, and I've been in pharma for 9 years, employed in the system, was that when you're in it, you believe that you are saving lives. The, you wake up and they have their core values and all this sort of thing. And if you resonate with some of them, we enhance people's health. But what I missed, and I was blindsided by it, the first one with the companies I was with, who are the biggest in the world, we return in money to investors. That was the number one value of these companies, was to return money to investors. So they are business making machines. To think that their health caring operations is really silly. But that took me a while to put those dots together. So if we just go back to hormone replacement and look at why that's so dominant at the moment. It always has been. I mean, the pill's been the solution since it was discovered in the 60s as a contraceptive option. But then it started being used because we realized it overrid the natural cycle of a girl for, oh, you've got bad periods. Well, let's just stop you having periods. Let's just put you on this thing. How long do I need to stay on it? Oh, we don't know, maybe forever. Then infertility issues or whatever happens for that woman on her lifespan journey. And then, a lot of women in perimenopause at the moment are being told, oh, you're fatigued, you need a drug because your hormones are broken. In fact, not even are they, that what should be said is, look, your hormones are out of balance. That can be brought back into balance naturally just with these things. But you're not going to make money off that because people can go and do that without your special thing that you have to make out the back in the lab. So it's easier to say, look, you're broken, you're not producing hormones, you need this to fix it, through to menopause, through to, we're seeing peptides, the whole lot coming through now. People are being told that they don't have sovereign control over their health and that they need this external thing to fix it. Same with those Zempic GLP-1s. That it's a hormone agonist. It works on the receptor sites in the gut that tells the brain that you're full. Now, we do that when we slow down and eat. We do that when we eat fiber. We do that when we're eating in a happy state, not a stress state, like the parasympathetic, not the sympathetic state. We do that naturally. But if we don't do those things, then hey, our GLP-1 doesn't get activated, nor does leptin. So we overconsume. So we end up large. So there's two ways to manage it: the natural way, which is true sovereignty over your health, or the other way, which is outsourcing it to a drug to try and facilitate you on the way. The message should never be, you are broken, you have no control over this. And that, unfortunately, is the message that's being really consciously pushed into people. You have no control over your broken sleep. It's not your problem. You're not making hormones, take this drug. If I was in control of the narrative, I'd say, hey, particularly around the peri and the menopause space, I'd say, hey, if you've got symptoms of menopause, that's because you're burnt out. Now let's sit down and look at how you're structuring your day. Where is your energy going? Because your body's going through a natural transition. It needs a bit more reserve. And at the moment, you don't have reserve. So let's build that up. These symptoms will go. It can happen like in a couple of months and you'll be fine. You don't need this drug. But that's not what women are told. They're told they're broken, not making hormones. You need external hormones.
So what does burnout
Fundamentally
look like
wrong.
to you in the clinic? You know, because we again, burnout's a big buzzword that gets thrown around a lot of marketing, a lot of for different reasons. And what does burnout look like to you in a clinical setting?
Irritability. Burnout looks like things people say, how people look, and then the big symptoms like they don't sleep. They have broken sleep, they disengage from work, they jump around different jobs because they're not passionate about, or they've lost their passion. They, I guess, from the head down, from the physical side, yeah, they're tired and wired. So they're so fatigued that they go to bed at night, but they can't sleep because their brain's in spinning on the spot till they get so burnt out they can't get out of bed. Their body aches, it throbs, they get stiff. If they've got high cortisol, their joints will ache, they lose mobility, so they start looking old because they're not vibrant and fluid when they move. Then they'll end up with all sorts of other broken physiological things that, you know, no sex drive. They can't be bothered being intimate. They don't have that extra love to give to anyone, so they become isolated, depressed, anxious. They start bringing in some control in their life. They might develop OCD, needy behaviors. There's a stack of things that go with burnout. But anyone who says to me, I'm bone fatigued, I'm exhausted, I go, well, you're burnt out.
So how do
It's
you
a
start? Because it's a cycle, right? I'm here, so I'm hearing you say is that the cycle. So there's this kind of leads into another peppering of questions that I have for you because they're it's kind of all linked. Is so you just again just talked about the burnout cycle, which again I guess we're talking also adrenal fatigue, right? That's where this is
mm,
coming into that, which then also has your which I don't hear spoken about as much anymore, but like your fibromyalgias and your
mm. Chronic fatigue
what
from
with chronic
childhood.
fatigue syndrome and all of that. So
Mm,
actually that's really interesting is that I'm wondering if the perimenopause conversation and the menopause conversation has now actually overridden. Well, you got chronic fatigue, you got fibromyalgia, you've got, there was another one that was always thrown around because it's a syndrome, so that you have no way of knowing what's causing it. It's probably a whole bunch of things. Mold is another big one that's on the kind of the airwaves right now, and especially around the alternative health, because it's so insidious that you don't you it's and it creeps into everything. So I want to tie in because you're feeling crap in yourself. You're feeling crap in your head. Your head's all foggy. You can't think, not you, one, right? Going through this. Um, I can't think straight. I'm tired. My joints hurt. And I'm just rattling off my own symptoms right now, or this is off the top
right.
of my head,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and also just say from 10 years ago, I was thinking about this. 10 years ago, I was at the peak of my fitness. I was Olympic
Mm,
weightlifting. I was the leanest I've ever been. I had the most energy. I was the fastest I'd ever been. And 10 years later, I get out of bed feeling like I'm 80 years old. Every joint in
mm,
my body hurts. I feel like I have arthritis everywhere, especially in injuries that I've had. I'm tired. And when I actually think about things that I used to do, I'm like, how did I have the energy to do that? Because even just the thought of doing that. And so there's this sense of, even so, what I wanted to say, also stretching, because I've been naturally flexible
mm,
my entire life. And I guess I took it for granted because now it really is, everything is just stiff. I feel like a board, but I don't get the relief that I did. And this is what we talk about, like things that used to work not working anymore. So the segue of conversation into food, exercise, sleeping, activities, like the hear it a lot. And again, I can attest to this is what used to work doesn't work anymore. If I can sit down and go through a yoga class, I do not feel better at the end of it. I actually feel worse. I feel more beat up. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. I don't feel longer, leaner, and warm like I used to. Things, to eat, I went carnivore, as you know, for like 18 months and I felt great, but it still didn't feel amazing at the end of it. And it wasn't giving me joy. There's things that I was missing in my life in terms of variety and taste and flavor and the joy of cooking, joy of being social
mm,
around those things. And it just feels like everything is a temporary fix. And so then again, misinformation around cortisol. Don't do this anymore because this is going to raise your cortisol. Don't do HIIT exercises. Don't spin on your Peloton anymore. Don't go out
Mm.
and do sprint work. Lift heavy weights, but lift heavy weights and your arms hurt, your grip's gone, and you have arthritis in your joints. So it's this whole kind of compounding mess around what do I do if that's the right thing to do? Because again, what I can feel is like just not wanting to do anything because do I push through this uncomfortableness because it's the right thing to do, or is it going to make it worse? Food,
You don't
exercise,
push through.
everything,
Yeah. You don't push through. So there's, if people have had racehorses or familiar with racehorses, that they are well looked after animals. They have a entourage of coaches and people who rub them down, wash them. Their food is impeccable. They have flaxseed, all sorts of things thrown at them because everyone sees them as the prize investment, and they want them to be optimally fit. They never race them if they've got a slight injury. They put them in the stable. They don't let them back on the track too early. They'll do a little test. If the horse pulls up a little bit sore, it goes back in the stable. And this is the lesson we don't seem to have the same vigilance on ourselves. We go, oh, I'm better now. I better get back in there and battle on and resume my whatever 30 hours a week or 50 hours a week. And we never really top the tank up. So we're always flirting with burnout. And when the tank goes up and we stop gap all the things that were leaking it, that has to be addressed as well. Then yoga might be appropriate. Then weight will take care of itself. Then pains go. And fibromyalgia, in my mind, has been one of the simplest things to fix. It's usually got a viral component or a mold component or a burnout component, draining the adrenals. Those are those stopgap things I was talking about. Identify that, fix that. And then it's usually low magnesium, CoQ10 or other things, some nutrients involved, but also just making sure the person doesn't burn out again. It's on that spectrum of burnout, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. It's all about the adrenals. They're these little powerhouse glands that live, about the size of your thumbnails, that live just above your kidneys, and they produce, they're just going non-stop. They are incredible what they produce in terms of a hormone, dynamic hormone. They're not just sitting there once a week flicking on. Second by second by second, they're flicking adrenaline, noradrenaline, a bit of cortisol, a bit of testosterone, a bit of aldosterone, a bit of glucocorticosteroids. Like they produce hormones second by second. If we start demanding that they're producing all these hormones when we're going through menopause, because after menopause, we actually ask them to produce sex hormones as well. So we ask them, the adrenal glands, we go, hey guys, we're going to go through this transition. The eggs have all gone. Can you also start making estrogen and progesterone? They go, do I have a choice? No, you're going to do it. Okay, well, can we stop stressing then? Because I'm at capacity here. And then we go and throw that into the mix and things just start falling apart. So it's, um, that's that hormone literacy we're not taught. If we just back down on the stress and allow the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest, to become more predominant for a period of time, then we can get back into being gun ho and racing around like GI Janes. Until that point, though, we need to top our reserves up, and you'll find pretty quick how deep your reserve is if you go and do something and get tired, or just I'll find recurring sicknesses. So you get sick, will go tap tap on the shoulder and go, okay, probably pushed it a little bit. And we have to do things differently. But as soon as we top it up, there's plenty of women, I would say millions of women globally alive today who have gone through menopause, who have incredibly fit, active, agile bodies. I'm 10 years post menopause and I feel younger than I did at 28. And I
So
feel more energetic than I
what does
did
a
when I was
normal
28.
life look like for you? Like what's the Sam recipe for success?
Ah, my recipe. Well, if anyone can do it, it's great. So, or like people see exercise as a chore or something they've got to tick off. For me, I'm looking for why can't I exercise? Why can't I go for a bushwalk? Why can't I walk on the beach? Why can't I swim in the ocean? So there'll be an element of that during the day. Food is a massive component. I love that whole at the moment, I'm in an apartment, but when had some land around me, had a little garden. So I'll go to the farmers markets, I'll speak to the farmers, and I'll just grab whatever looks like it's in season. and almost play a little game. I wonder what I can make with this. So I spend a lot of time around food and creating food. Work, obviously, I work for myself, so I do a bit like yourself. I do enjoy being creative to either create content for people to better understand their health. Uh, I'm an artist as well, so I'll create pieces that don't go anywhere just to have that. I've started playing guitar again. But I do spend a fair bit of time in front of the computer. And I've started saying this is where the mind has been told to back down and let the soul have a bit more of the voice. Meditation's a big part of my life as well, so I meditate every day. And I've just started chanting again or humming, and breathing, doing breathing activities. But the mind will say, oh no, you've got to do this, you've got to do another post. And my soul's going, you've had the dominant energy. You've had all the focus and energy. You can just be quiet. Look at the results you've got. Give me an opportunity. And we're just going to see how that lands. But often more activity in the cerebral state in our left brain doesn't bring forward greater health or joy. So why do it? Why do
Well, because
it?
that's the thing. You just think how much stress is brought in just by trying to figure this problem out, right? And
Yeah,
it just it,
true.
and it just trying to get healthier and balanced. Again, being bombarded with all this information, not having to make a decision, not knowing what to do is actually really stress inducing in itself. And so,
But
what?
people have to spend, can I just say,
Go
Kate,
ahead.
people have to spend 2.5 hours a day on themselves. If they're looking for a script, people, how much sun do I need to get my vitamin D? And we're very scripted. We want to know that.
Mhm.
I would say 2.5 hours a day on things for you is the minimum as a woman. Always has been, always will be.
And that doesn't mean sleep.
No, that does not mean sleep. No,
Or a
that
nap.
that means pottering around. That means getting up, drifting into work. The typical work culture is very masculine. Wake up, get into work at 8:30, smash work out, have a 30-minute break or an hour break, and work through to 5. That does not suit the female body clock. We are a lot more high productivity, and then we need to just, drift around for a little while, catch up with girlfriends. It's very hard for women in that model to excel. We're more cyclical as well, like not just through our periods, but postmenopausal women are cyclical too. Our energy is not lineal. So, the understanding if we can work for ourselves, great. Don't feel we've got to punch out a 9 to 5 day.
Mm. Yeah.
Start at 11. You start when you
Mm.
want, but do that 2.5 hours on yourself first.
And that's also, again, just understanding the cycles throughout the day as well, is that there's different tasks that we're it's easier for us to do throughout the day. Again, so for me personally, if I need to think about something, if it's numbers or if it's a problem solving, that's mid morning. First thing in the morning is toast, mid morning, but in the afternoon, that's when I start. I like to talk to people, but after 3, 4 o'clock, I don't want to talk to people anymore because my brain goes creative. So if I have any graphics to do, if I have any design work to do, I actually take that into the evening with me because it actually starts to calm me down. Trying to do it during the day, I get frustrated with it. And again, just knowing, giving myself permission to actually organize my day around what actually feels good means I actually get it done quicker too. Again, if I'm
Yes.
trying to do something in the evening that my brain is just like, I'm tired, I've switched off, can't we do something fun and creative? But you're trying to, balance a spreadsheet and it's fighting against it instead of actually just saying, listen, we'll do this in the morning. So that's one of the things that I always recommend again to clients, just from a time management perspective, is know what actually works for you when and work with it because you'll actually get a lot more done at the end of the day.
And it's perfect because cortisol, if we were talking about it from um, a high, when can we maximize our focus through the day? And as you've just perfectly described, cortisol, which is works in tandem with melatonin. So melatonin is our sleep hormone, is um, so sorry, I should just start. When we wake up, the daylight hits the back of our eyes, even though the room might be dark, and cortisol starts to be secreted. It's our wake up, it's time to get going hormone. It peaks around 10 o'clock till midday. So all your high functioning brain stuff, accounting numbers, all that sort of big decisions should be done during that
Mhm.
component of the day. Then as the day goes on, cortisol should naturally start to taper off around 7 o'clock at night. As it gets lower, melatonin will start to be released. And melatonin is our, oh, I'm getting a bit sleepy now. It needs to get those two slopes right so melatonin can do its thing, which is put us to sleep, keep us asleep. If we do brain activities or high functioning things towards the end of the day and push our cortisol up, we stop melatonin being produced. And that's one of the key reasons people don't sleep. They'll go to bed and their brain has just been told it's 10 a.m. and they're scared to go to sleep in case they forget some of the stuff they've been taught thinking about, or they go and look at world news or something like that activates their brain into survival mode and they'll stop melatonin being produced. So rather than taking melatonin, which is what a lot of people do, just shift the timing of the day around. And it can
So
be a
yeah,
game
that's
changer.
a great light conversation too. And red light tools and devices and just being aware of what blue light is doing to your body. And blue light is everywhere. Like we're looking at blue light right now, looking at the screen. We're looking at the flash of your phone in the middle of the night to check the time is a blue light. And if you start to become really aware of it, you're like, oh, I'm awake now. I have red blue light blocking glasses, like my red glasses right next to my bed. So if I have to get up in the night, I literally my red lights go on and I'm feeling my way around the house just so I don't turn the blue lights on because I'm now so sensitive to that sleep disruption around that. So talk a little bit, you mentioned that, just talk a little bit about cortisol, that melatonin switch, and just how important melatonin is. And well, and cortisol too. Cortisol's not a bad guy. It's just that not all the time, you know?
And no hormone's bad. They all serve a purpose. Um, and I didn't start, some people might not be sure what a hormone is, because it's, when if you were taught it in biology in school, it could be a long time ago. So hormones to me are our internal postal service. If we've got to get a message from, New York down to Austin, we might use a postal service that takes a message, and then Austin will say, "Hey, I've got that message, thank you," and it'll send a receipt back up. So that's all hormones do. They are released from a gland, they'll go somewhere, maybe the heart or down to the ovaries or wherever they're off to, and then the reciprocating organ will send a, "Hey, thanks, got the message." If the point of destination doesn't give a receipt saying I got it, then the starting place doesn't know, so it sends down more. Now, a very good example, well, you've just asked me, I'll keep it on cortisol and melatonin rather than bringing the thyroid into
Or
conversation because
insulin.
that's a
Yeah.
whole nother,
Yeah. A lot of people know about
yeah.
insulin as another way
Or
of,
insulin,
yeah.
yes, yes. But cortisol is the hormone of 2026, and I've been pushing for that because personal trainers talk about cortisol and belly fat. Cortisol does so much more than just in high numbers increase the girth of our tummies. It is a wonderful hormone. It goes up to our, so we release cortisol when we're in perceived stress, and that can be unconscious triggers. That can be running late for meetings. That can just be waking up going, oh my God, it's Monday, and we've patterned ourselves into it's a high cortisol state now until Friday. Whatever, patterns we set up, that's when we will release cortisol. So it goes up to our liver and it says to the liver, hey, make some cholesterol because maybe a saber-tooth tiger is going to rip our arm off and we'll need to make some new cells. So one of its jobs is to make cholesterol. The other one is to work with melatonin in that 24-hour diurnal pattern. And if those two aren't in cahoots together, then sleep will be off. It also plays a role with boosting our immune system. And it's not boosting our immune system per se, but it plays a surveillance role. And if people are getting recurrent coughs and colds, they could have dropped their cortisol. And they'll enter into that chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, hey, I'm always sick off work thing. It's like, well, you've dropped your cortisol. It plays another role with prostaglandins and interleukins, and they're our little chemicals that go around saying, hey, we've sprained an ankle. We need to quarantine that ankle and protect it. So we're going to make it swollen and sore and immobilize it through that process. So cortisol plays a massive role with that, which is why a lot of people have joint aches and swollen fingers and different things. And it also talks to insulin and it goes, hey, gonna need some more of you on deck because I've just, the word's gone out, adrenaline and noradrenaline have just told the muscles to release a stack of glycogen. We need you now to take it into the cells. So as soon as cortisol's up, insulin will also be up. So understanding the power of this beautiful hormone is great. We should be respecting it, not sitting back going, oh crap, how do I stop all of that happening? Because we do want it to happen. Cholesterol's not a bad thing. Having insulin, taking sugar into the cells isn't a bad thing, but it's got to be appropriate for what we need it for. If our life isn't under threat, we need to really manage it. Um, Back to you were asking about melatonin, they definitely work
Well, that's the thing
in,
as well. It's like you need that cortisol to spike because it has to
uh,
drop to trigger the
yes.
melatonin. So if you're constantly negating your cortisol activities in some way, you're not allowing that natural cycle, which means your melatonin is inhibited because the cortisol hasn't triggered it.
And taking a pill for it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
People will say, and I've seen it as a practitioner, very mixed results with taking melatonin. But melatonin, we're understanding more because of what happens during deep sleep is we actually release fat during deep sleep. That's when we get rid of most of our fat. We make antibodies. So that's when we really pull our immune system together. And the key thing that does that is melatonin. So if we're low on and fertility is also wrapped up in there. So if we don't let melatonin do its job, a lot of those things will suffer. And as you say, the key to it is often just a bit of time thing. Do the heavy lifting brain work in the first part of the day and then do the creative stuff in the latter part. So you're not going to bed running a small business and doing numbers before you
Mhm.
go to sleep. It just won't work for you.
Goes right back to that cave woman time of just actually paying attention to what the sun is doing because the sun is the real clock or for your hormones around that. And light is so very important. And we have so much artificial, again, a whole nother conversation we can have around light management and our hormones. What I do want to cover before we jump off on this is what is your professional opinion around a mix of both? Is it all synthetic? Is it all natural? Is there any scenario in your opinion that both can be utilized in some way?
Oh, 100%. Like it would be, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for drugs at some point in my life. I can say that. Like I've had, a lung thing lately. I was taking natural things like there was no tomorrow. Like I have a plethora of incredible people globally who are specialists in natural medicine. Take this, try this, and I was, and I got sicker and sicker so much that I ended up with collapsed lung, bilateral pneumonia, tumors throughout my lungs. And if it wasn't for the medical system saying, we're taking you in and we're going to give you some IV antibiotics that, hardcore, I don't, I actually believe I would have died. Like I was trying hard. So I think there is a place. I just don't know that they should be the first line of call. And I think we're using them when time management could resolve the problem. Or like we were saying before with HRT, women and men have these incredible capacities to navigate their health outcomes if they're given the right advice and they know what's happening in their body. Otherwise, they're flying blind. They'll use backstreet medicine or advice because it worked for the neighbour and won't get the result. People, and I was thinking about this the other day, I really believe people need a good doctor, a good naturopath or a nutritionist, and someone who works on their body, like a chiropractor or a masseuse. That's the minimum, absolute minimum. And so it's not, sure, some people are going to be heavily anchored in natural, and I am. I mean, that's my grassroots. But I'm also grateful that we have pharmacopoeia and at times surgery. I mean, I was an ED nurse for years. I used to want emergency departments to use homeopathy and different things because I know it would have helped rather than giving kids Panadol. Belladonna would have worked probably as efficiently. I shouldn't say 100% equal because I haven't got the placebo blind control study to know it, but homeopathy works incredibly well. However, there were times when people came in with a bruised kidney that I knew were going to die unless they had surgical intervention. So, where do we draw the line? It's an individual thing. I think there is space for us all to work happily together, and that's why I like integrative medicine and integrative care. And but people need to also spend money and time paying their natural consultants, not thinking that sleep advice is for free, or go and get it yourself and see how you go. And if you don't get the right result, then pay someone to give you that advice.
And
So
so,
I just think people don't invest enough money into the natural.
so I'm just thinking wearables too, right? That whole the phenomenon around, which I want to actually segue into testing because there's this sense of numbers, right? Being obsessed with your Aura ring or whatever other wearable, your Apple Watch, whatever is telling you the numbers and it's, telling you it's time for sleep, it's time for this, this is how much deep sleep you had, this is how much. Again, understanding that that's not for you per se. That's based on very generic, general population information. And there's something again from a testing like you always say it's like test don't guess, right? It's that sense of
Mm,
really knowing what you're working with. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is so my husband's on TRT and
mm,
he from that experience in the clinic that he goes to, there's a huge range for testosterone in men, huge.
mm, mm,
And what the problem is that by the time a gentleman walks into one of these clinics, there's a problem and they get their TRT or they get their testosterone levels checked. There's no baseline because they didn't have it done when they were in their 20s. So you don't know what that gentleman's natural testosterone at its peak level was. They're now basing it on, well, you could be somewhere between, I think it's ridiculous, like 300 to 1500 is a
mm,
huge range. And as long as you're somewhere in here, but
mm,
there's, if his natural range in his 20s was 1500 and they're just getting him just over, 800, that's a very big difference. So why I'm
mm.
using that as an example is that the same for women? Like, do we have that kind of wide? Because for a lot of us, we don't have those baseline results right now. Is there a tighter range that's more manageable for women?
It's a really good question, actually. I think at the end of the day, if we just try and push everyone into a bell curve, we miss the outliers, and that could be the normal for them. And so that there is pros and cons of measuring, and you've just highlighted it. And I say test, not guess. If I've got clients in New Zealand and the States and the UK and wherever else they come from, I'm not necessarily testing them. I'm going on clinical experience and listening really hard to the words they're using and how they're describing their symptoms. So with those people, I'll often say, look, in my experience, this is what's happening. Because you can never, and this is where AI will never ever dominate health, you cannot replace experience. There's something like intuition and experience that will never be replaced, and that's why seeing someone straight out of college who might have a PhD in nutrition might not be the best food educator for you because they don't have experience. So testing does and diagnostics have to be kept in their box to a degree. We are living in the world though of overdiagnosing, and even though I'm the one who says test, don't guess, and you bang on with the ranges. They can be what's right for Joan might not be right for Susie. We know this with thyroid testing. So with thyroid testing, what they do in Australia, and I assume it's the same in the States, they do different batches throughout the year. All the big pathology companies twice a year will say, okay, it's whatever, Wednesday, the 24th of June, we're going to get 100 samples today and we're going to see what the TSH levels are. And so the TSH levels to year has expanded with what's considered normal. Now, that is so wrong in every level because what we're saying is we're only measuring sick people to start with. So we're not getting people who are normal
You're not
populations.
getting a good
Um,
baseline, right? So you don't know what you're
no.
working with.
And as more people burn out, thyroids become more underactive. So we're tolerating underactive thyroids more than ever before because more people are burnt out. But to lean into your point, one, we don't know the individual's optimized baseline, and two, we don't know what a lot of healthy people's baselines are because they don't go and get tested. Is there a way around it? Probably not. Inherently, and this is you see it with university studies, they'll ask for volunteers. But once again, does an 18-year-old woman relate to a 48, does that translate to a 48-year-old woman's hormone profile? Probably not. So I think the experience is the piece that needs to have more value at overarching everything. Diagnostics, I was taught when I was doing nursing, and I had one of the best teachers in this country. He said, all diagnostics do is confirm what you already believe. You've already made your clinical decision, except you might just be differentiating between two other things. You already have that in your head, and the test just confirms that. That's all.
So that's what I would say. Diagnostics are good to show where the needle's moving, right? So if you repeatedly
Yes,
test, right? So there is one of the questions came in is like, should I be eating more carbs? Should I be, blah blah blah? And that my assumption, your answer would be try it and see how you feel, right? And then the test also in a way kind of backs up what you're feeling, I guess. And so, or again, you can show that there's micro movements maybe even before you're seeing the macro evidence in your life around that. Um,
definitely.
okay.
The food thing's interesting. A lot of people
Mhm,
want to know, and I get asked these questions.
mhm,
Should I be intermittent fasting? Should I be
mhm,
doing paleo or high protein to lose weight in menopause, particularly because it's a different weight to any other weight. It's different to male weight. It's different to postpartum weight. It's a unique, beautiful fat that is there while we go through the transition, and will go. It will go with the right hormone mix once the body's found balance again. But it can't be treated like anything else. It can't. It won't respond to boot camps. It won't. I don't think it responds very well to starvation. I don't. I mean, even HCG drops, which is HCG's a hormone, so you can put drops under your tongue and reduce your calorie restriction down to 500 calories a day. Well, of course, that's going to work. But as soon as people stop, they gain the weight again. So I think finding the finding a trustworthy person to help you navigate it, because
mhm,
otherwise you can be 10 different things in and you might only give it a week, and it might have been number three that was the solution for you, but you just didn't stick at it long enough, or the objective feedback wasn't strong enough for you to
mhm.
believe it was working. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so three things that you would recommend somebody stops doing right now if they're feeling any of these symptoms that we've been talking about.
Mm. Uh, stop stop doing things for people who are not stop doing things that don't benefit you today. So what I mean there is I'll often hear women saying, "Oh, I've just got to do the I said I'd do the neighbour's dry cleaning or whatever. I'll pick it up." Well, why would you do that? Oh, well, it's just on the way home. There's another 10 minutes that you're not doing on you, and you've just told me you're tired. So become really discerning on where your time and energy is going. Um, I would stop using a phone after 7 o'clock at night. Sorry,
Mm-hmm. Good one.
night people should be asleep by 9.
Mm-hmm.
So stop using things that are taking them outside of their bubble at 7 o'clock at night. And I'm just trying to think of stop using stimulants to boost that energy gap, because punishing your body more, and that's what stimulants do,
Mm-hmm.
is not
Like
going to pick up that reserve quick enough.
three things that they can do right now.
Mm. Did you send this to me in an email?
No, it's intuitively inspired.
Yes. Three things to do right now is go to a farmer's market.
Okay.
Go and get the best food you can get. Now, if that's in a town that doesn't have farmers markets, or do you know what I mean when I say farmers markets? Do
Yeah,
you have
we
them
have
over
we
there?
have them. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Go and support the people who feed you. They are the most important person in your life. So that's what I'd say. Go and farmers markets. Uh, mm, maybe get maybe get a healthcare professional to in on your team if you haven't already. And the doctor doesn't count as a healthcare professional. The doctor is the disease manager when things go really sour. You need a bodywork person and a nutritionist as the healthcare people. So if you haven't got one of those, find one. And secondly,
The
I
two and a
think
half
sleep's
hours a day, I'd probably
Yeah, two
say.
and a half hours a day. That's a good yes.
Hmm.
I was thinking about sleep, because sleep actually can spin life around for people. Just going to bed earlier, sleeping better. It doesn't happen necessarily, it's patterned as well. So our behavior around sleep can take a good 2 weeks to kick in till you
Hmm.
start getting the benefit of the new introduced habits. But that will top up burnout a lot quicker than a lot of other things.
I love it. So yeah, starting to put yourself first, starting to take this seriously, and actually also my biggest takeaway is again aiming for excellence, not just surviving with mediocre, and thinking that this is just it, because this is how, it is to get old.
God,
And
no, don't ever stop. No, we're aging. There's so much life until, ideally people just go to sleep and don't wake up the next day in their 80s.
mhm.
Until that point, squeeze every little beautiful moment out of life and have the energy to enjoy it.
My mom's definitely a great role model for that in mid 70s,
Yeah.
and you would not believe it. So Sam has an amazing online weight loss program that is it evergreen, or it includes a session with you, doesn't it?
It does. It
Mhm.
includes a session with me. It is evergreen, so people can tap into it 24/7.
Yeah.
And as I said, I grew up in an Italian family, and they're not 20 recipes to have a meal. It's really simple stuff that
Nice.
for people who've lost confidence around food. So there's recipes there, but there's little video clips as well if they want to look at those, talking about when we eat, we've got to be in the relaxed state and why that's important hormonally. There'll be clips on vitamin D, just a montage of clips there. It also includes something I call the happy female formula, and that's 5 modules explaining more in depth about hormones from and nutrition and movement and stress, and why stress can be really powerful, but we also need to learn how to switch it off when it's not necessary. So that's included in there, and a 30-minute session with me so we can break down what supplements people are taking, what we think the lowest hanging fruit is to achieve weight loss. It's not always hormonal, it might be something else. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's all
I
in that
love
little
that. So
bundle.
I'll put all of those details in the show notes below, along with the books that Sam has available too. And so if you want, as far as I'm concerned, if you want one place to start, it's actually getting on the session with Sam, who will help you cut through a lot of the confusion and get you back to excellent health in no time. So
Mhm.
I could keep going. I still haven't gotten through all my questions. Maybe we have to do this again, because it's fascinating. It's so important. And thank you so much for your time and experience and expertise here today, and just bringing a lot of light into the world. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope it's helped people and given them something new to think about too.